to Uncle Moe's for family fun. It's good, 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 good.
Sounds good.
Hello and welcome to Uncle Moe's Family Feedbag, where we look through seasons 1 to 12 of The Simpsons through random episode generation. We look through all the creamy highs, terrifying lows, and the dizzying middles. I'm of course joined by we've got our back, folks. The pilot went so well, we've went and had her commission our own damn series. We're joined by Ms. Sash Steele. How are we doing, Sash?
Hi Tyler, thanks for having me back. It's good to be here. Yeah, I'm pretty good, thank you.
All right, and the episode we're reviewing today is Season 5, Episode 6, with Marge on the Lam here. Directed by Mark Kirkland, written by Bill Canterbury, with the original air date being November the 4th, 1993, and the couch gag as the family just burst through the wall of their own couch. Sash, do you have any initial memories of this episode or any fun moments?
I'd actually completely forgotten about this episode until I watched it again. I really sort of probably should go and do a bit of a rewatch of The Simpsons, to be honest, to refresh my memory. But it was a good episode. I enjoyed watching it. I had forgotten a lot of the plot, so it was kind of nice to watch it as though I was watching it for the first time. And yeah, no standout first memories of watching it, but I enjoyed this rewatch quite a lot.
All right, great. I will say, if you haven't guessed already, folks, for people who have watched the episode, it's a very good parody of Thelma and Louise, the big Ridley Scott film here. I think they do a cracking job here. And I suppose on your side of arts and sketching and design, Sash, that especially towards the later part of the episode with the shading and everything going into the early morning, I really like that. Mark Kirkland, I think, did a bang-up job here.
Yeah, I was going to say I really like the animation in this episode. Definitely a step up from the last one we watched, though that wasn't without its charm. Yeah, really nice use of colour palettes and stuff. We don't really often get a lot of episodes kind of set at night, I don't think, so it's quite nice to see that different side of Springfield. And as you say, the animation team brought it to life quite well.
We kick off the episode with the family watching a telethon. And the fella here with the slow delivery and the really dry voice here, he's, from my little research of other Simpsons podcasts, is Garrison Keillor. Now, for the British audiences, he's like a Radio 4 type, very sort of droll, very talking about old poetry and how that shaped the English language and that. And Homer's not having any of it. He's wanting the TV to be more funny. And I've seen that gif a load of times, especially when it's linked to, bad sitcoms. Like, it's Mrs. Brown's Boys, then it'll cut to Homer going, be more funny, and slapping the TV.
Oh, that's such a good line, and it's highly applicable to many things, I think. It's one of those Simpsons quotes that you can just sort of drop into a lot of situations in real life, which I think is the merit of a lot of Simpsons quotes, really. They're just so, so transferable. Got a lot of reuse value. But yeah, that genuinely made me laugh. That's when I knew I was in for a good episode.
And the fella throws over to Troy McClure. Me and Cal have talked about it before in a previous episode, but Phil Hartman, he was, for the early seasons, the glue that held it together. He was the sort of ongoing special guest here, and we get him twice with Troy McClure and Lionel Hutz, and I'm guessing from you, Sash, that he's got to be one of the top characters.
Yeah, 100%. I love him. All the little references, the sort of shout-outs and parodies and stuff that he quotes are good.
Yeah, he references that with your help and your funding, we can, recast shows like Edward the Professor, which is, again, we're talking about facetiousness and Simpsons predicting things, but, it's a costumed medieval drama. Again, are they predicting Game of Thrones, or is this just me being incredibly facetious and sarcastic? Sorry doesn't cut it with this Pope. But yeah, they actually get a call. This surprises Troy McClure. What the hell? Oh, there's an actual call. And Marge seems to be the, second only donor, pledging $30, but she gets rewarded for a charity with some ballet tickets. And this really excites Homer for some reason. And Marge even herself is confused, but he enjoys all the meats of the cultural stew. And I've seen this memed on so many Simpsons Facebook pages. It's just a little car rolling around in the circus arena, and Homer's like a pig in shit. He loves it.
I tried to look this up to see if it is a reference to something, and I couldn't find anything. I think it's just completely surreal and random. It's like, I love it, it's great. It's just like, oh yeah, of course, somehow in his little brain, Homer's got the concept of ballet mixed up with this idea of a bear in a fez riding a bicycle or whatever, or a car or whatever it is. And it's just like random and great. I also love when he comes out of the scene in his mind and he's still singing the little ditty, and Marge is just staring at him deadpan for like a good 30 seconds. It's just so well paced.
Yeah, they're showing the realism of cutaway in inner monologues and sitcoms. What actually happens to the person they were previously talking to? Do they just look at them like they're mental, or can they see their vision? But no, Marge looks petrified.
Yeah, but who is this person? She should be used to it by now, to be honest.
But there's a knock at the door, and Ruth Powers is there from, I guess, a season or so ago when her and her daughter moved in. She's looking to use a power sander, which actually belongs to Flanders, but she's able to use it. Homer ends up going to work. It's the next day now, and he's not happy. He's confessing to his friends. He's confessing to Lenny and Carl that, he has to see the ballet, and it shows you the kind of company that Homer keeps, where Lenny also thinks it's the bear in the little car as well.
Yep, that made me laugh. I was going to say, you got that weird shout out to Crystal Pepsi coming up next, or Crystal Coke or something. That was the whole thing.
Yes, that is. You're absolutely correct. I believe it was a big thing in the early 90s, just clear cola. Everyone's trying to kick it off. I believe it was successful to an extent for a short run, then they closed it. But then it got populated again by all these food review YouTubers buying very old Crystal Pepsis. And you can imagine what happened when they took it. It won't be that graphic, because I'm trying to be PG here. I'm trying to, eventually monetize this. But yeah, it wasn't a good result all over the tables and that. But that actually was able to kickstart a very short run of modern Crystal Pepsi. Homer actually hasn't got money for this new little cola, so he decides to stick it to the man, and he goes very Elastigirl here, Sash. I know there's suspension of disbelief, but you see the shaft of the vending machine, and he just slinks up there past the already deceased arm.
Made me feel a bit squeamish, to be honest.
Did it?
But yeah. But what are these people of Springfield made out of? That radiation must be really doing a number on them.
Oh, I never thought of that. Yeah, exactly. He's able to grab the can, but he's stuck. He's lodged in there. Yeah, what's a man to do? But Lenny and Carl are absolutely no help. This is a little hidden gem, actually. I forgot about this. He's done for. Let's get out of here. Ah!
And just to run away. That made me laugh as well.
Again, it's the little mob mentality. It's the very selfishness of the Springfield citizens itself. They're not even willing to help their own friend. They don't want to be accessories to the crime. But Homer is still very determined to take Marge to the ballet. He's not... I will say Homer isn't horrible in this episode. He's justified, and he does make an effort to try and go to the ballet. Obviously, he gets the jealousy, he gets the green-eyed monster later with Marge's new relationship with Ruth, but I'd say he's reasonably fair. He does make the effort to go, and he does have a genuine excuse.
Yeah, but let's be honest, if someone called you up and said, I'm trapped between two vending machines, would you believe them? Although, to be fair, I kind of feel like that is exactly the kind of thing that Homer would do, so,
Oh no, Marge does give the good reaction of just slumping back, and yeah, of course it is Homer, two vending machines, so she has no one to go to the ballet with, but, Ruth Powers comes back, knocks on the door, returning the power tool. She got wiped out of her power tools when her ex-husband took her love for mankind and her youth and that. I feel, Ruth Powers, I'll say it now, underrated character. I really enjoyed her in this episode. I know you're very much part of the sisterhood, Sash, and it was fun to see Ruth turn Marge, not bad, but to have her give a bit of a wild side, a bit of an edge and that. What do you think of Ruth Powers getting fully fleshed out in this episode?
Yeah, absolutely. Underrated character. It's a shame that she's not in more episodes, to be honest. She only has 2 or 3 appearances, doesn't she? I know she's in the background a couple of times, but yeah, I'd really love to have seen her come back. But again, the Simpsons' tendency to just stick to the status quo kind of means that she disappears after this, but I really enjoyed her. She's kind of a nice foil to Marge's more, I guess, goody-goody sort of temperament. She's very much just a bit more wild, a bit more brash, a bit more cynical, and brings that side of Marge that we don't get to see often, which is really cool.
It creates a nice contrast.
Yeah, absolutely.
They end up going to the ballet, you'd think it's in a nice theatre, but, it's Springfield, it's the high school gym.
They end by spectacularly breaking the basketball court.
Yeah, they give it the old leaping Jordan shot. I like that, and they kept the glass in after the smash, so they're just delicately bowing after their great performance whilst trying to avoid the glass as well. But they end up leaving, they had a fun time in that, and again, this is foreshadowing for later when Marge takes a little go on the wild side through Ruth's influence, saying, "Oh, it's 9:30. Oh yeah, we better turn in." Oh no, you were serious.
Yep, good line. And I've been that person before who's somehow fallen into a friendship with a much cooler friend, and I'm like, oh, what do I do? How do I act? How do I sort of maintain this cool friendship that I've fallen into? So yeah, totally relate to Marge a bit here.
And they don't go home straight away, they go for some coffee, and Ruth actually envies Marge. I will say I do like Marge's return to this. Oh, right, thanks. Why? Because she's never really had a compliment about Homer or the fact she's married to him ever.
I mean, all we see really of their relationship from the people is Patty and Selma, who are obviously quite critical. So yeah, I guess going from that to this must be quite a refreshing change.
But Ruth is just, fed up with men. She's went through a divorce and that. Her husband, all he did was eat, sleep and drink beer. Your point being, says Marge. And previous to that, back at the power plant, when it reveals that Homer's actually holding on to the can, he replies, "Your point being." So they've very much affected each other through many years of marriage. I think that was quite cute.
Well, you were unlucky. But there are a lot of good men out there.
Hey, can I throw up in your bathroom? I'll buy something.
Oh yeah. Before that, we have the amazing line where the guy is about to saw Homer's arm off, and he says in this really childlike voice, "But they'll grow back, right?" And the guy just looks at him like he's completely insane. Just goes, "Yeah, sure." And Homer's like, "Oh, thank goodness." Absolutely laugh out loud moment of the episode for me. Really funny. Just super well delivered.
Marge gets home and Homer saying, "Oh, you don't believe me, but here's a note. Mrs. Simpson, when we were saving your husband, whole lumberyard burnt down." So, he was correct. He does find an excuse, but this doesn't matter to Marge, She enjoyed a time with Ruth so much that they're going out again tomorrow night. And Homer, he's not having any of it. He's very jealous. He doesn't want to see Marge get lost in with another friend. And I guess it's a good time to bring it up now, Sash. As good as the scene was with her trying to make friends and Homer comes in with the skunk and the No Fat Chicks t-shirts. Oh, he's doing it again, and they all run away. Marge, why doesn't she have friends?
Yeah, I guess Homer is not the best person for first impressions. Inviting people around, and then Homer comes in with some ridiculous antics. I do feel a bit sorry for Marge, to be honest with you. She is very much the long-suffering housewife trope.
Well, the thing is, the reality of this situation is, through seasons and seasons, what sort of close friends Marge have. Ruth Powers, yes, but in very sporadic episodes. Maud Flanders is very much devoted to her own family. That Helen Lovejoy is very spiteful of her and makes a little mean comment to that. And I've done, again, my research through old interviews and that, and Sam Simon, who's, in my opinion, one of the best parts of the Simpsons crew, he's the main writer, he helped bring in all these great writers. He went through a divorce before actually starting on The Simpsons, and he made it clear that, you don't really need female writers in the writer's room, and also episode we critiqued before, Tense the Menace, written by Ian Maxstone Graham, he's gone on record and saying, we didn't really need women's writers. I'm not sure we still do now. Again, this is back in 2000, 2001, but it shows you the very, well, I'll just go out and say it, somewhat misogynistic tones that the writers' room back then still had. Hopefully it's changed now, but I'd like your opinion on this, Sash, please, because I know you're a outright advocate for LGBT and feminist rights and equality, so I'd like your opinion, please, on this lack of female talent in the writers' room.
Yeah, I think it definitely shows. You just need that voice for the authenticity, Of course you do. There's just little bits that an echo chamber of people of the same gender and, race and sexuality and etc. just wouldn't pick up on. And yeah, maybe we did have more female writers in The Simpsons. There would be a lot less storylines where Marge and Lisa sort of get the short end of the stick. I know I read an essay a while back about all the times that Lisa's kind of especially thrown under the bus for the sake of a punchline or whatever, and it happens quite disproportionately, I think, to the women of the show. And it's just, typical sitcom tropes, but it does grate on you a little bit. Once you see it, you can't really unsee it. So that representation is important, for sure.
Marge gets glammed up and Homer's, a bit nervous, a bit apprehensive, but, Marge is, she's sporting a different style here. Obviously in games you get different sort of sprites and that, and idle animations and costumes and that, but I'm liking what Marge is going for. She's going, a little bit of sass with the lipstick, but she's keeping it civil and mum-like with the over-the-shoulder cardigan. She goes to leaving Homer is saying, how could you abandon your family and trying to guilt trip her? But the kids are well behind her, have a fun time, Mum. Rock the Casbah. And Homer's cursed them, man's best friend, how dare you.
Yep, it's very much, they call it mapping, where you play out one scene like another. You play out one scene, but you're really sort of lampshading another scene. So we see the kind of parallels of a sort of divorce here, where, Marge is running off and leaving Homer alone with the kids.
Yes, you're right. I didn't even think of it that way. Yeah, and obviously Homer's saying, Marge, you're spending too much time with this woman, like a concerned wife thinking about a husband going off with another woman. Yes, I like the parallel, Sash. See, that's why we have you on here. That's why we have you on. Perfect.
No problem. But yeah, and then we have the scene of Homer trying to call up all his friends, right?
We do, but I'll just say before that, when we're going to go into the act break, again, this is foreshadowing, this pays off later. Marge is saying, Ruth, you look nice, and, she's looking like this domineering, sassy, confident woman in her mid-30s. She's saying, it's not about nice. Tonight's about sunshine, lollipops. Oh, wait, wrong tape.
Oh, such another good scene. See, this episode I really enjoy because it's just full of, genuinely funny laugh out loud moments on their own, the plot aside. But yeah, Marge just has that blank stare again, like that what is going on here stare, which is just really funny.
She fixes it, she sticks on Welcome to the Jungle and they speed away into the night. But Homer, he's concerned, and I like the kids, particularly Lisa. Lisa's quite playful. She realises that Mum's been a bit of a hellraiser. She's sort of rebelling a bit, and she's teasing Homer, it's fine, women have got a right to a night out, haven't they, Lisa? Oh, yeah, sure, Dad. I like that, because like you say, she gets a bit of the brunt in that, so it's nice to see Lisa win, to have a bit of fun at her father's expense.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, Sash, as you were saying, Homer wants to call up his friends. Yeah, take us through who's calling up.
Oh man, who do we get first?
I
want to say Mr. Burns.
We get Lenny. We get Lenny.
We do get Lenny.
I want to say concubine or something, or just a bit on the side.
Yep, just a lady's legs that is shaving. Perfect, Saturday night in.
Oh, no can do, Homer. I'm watching the game.
Shave up, not down, you idiot.
I won't spend too much time on this, but is that a kink, or is he just very attentive to a woman's needs?
I have no idea, I guess it could be interpreted either way, but that's one of the very few insights into Lenny's life that we get, I think. I know he lives near a bowling alley in a later season, but yeah.
Hey, we don't kink shame here on Family Feedbag.
No kink shaming, just a comment. But yeah, just a very brief but interesting insight into Lenny's life that raises a lot of questions, really.
We also get, and I guess the main memory of the call-ups, Mr. Burns looking like, I guess, one of those girl magazines from the 60s, playing with the phone cord with his finger, chocolates on the side.
Yeah, great little visual. What does he say? That sounds delish.
Ooh, sounds delish. Let me just toss some jeans on and wait a minute. Who is this?
Homer decides to just go out on his own. You know, Marge isn't the only one that can have fun. But in between that, Marge ends up going to Shot Kickers and having a little boogie, go on the mechanical bull. And she gets approached by these two strapping men. Again, this is where the parallels of Thelma and Louise start to come in here, saying, you feel like getting lucky? I am lucky. I have a wonderful family and beautiful children. Thank you. Again, the naivety of Marge coming through here. She's still this cute, innocent mum.
Yeah, this is a nice scene. See, I've never seen Thelma and Louise, so a lot of the references are lost on me from this episode, but I still enjoyed these, like, I want to call them tentatively call them date scenes between Marge and Ruth are still really entertaining in their own right.
And they move on from that to a proper nightclub here, the Hate Box. And I will say the music in the background, I don't know if it's actually referencing anything, but to me it's very Too Unlimited, you know, no. It's got that same kind of sassy beat to it.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Felt like doing a bit of Yaya Colo Torre for the Premier League fans out there. But yeah, again, you want to talk about direction and that. This is a very apt drawing, an apt sketch of, you know, not a seedy nightclub, but, you know, a very underground nightclub. Sash, what did you think of the design of this place and the characters you saw in there, the dancers?
Are we looking at the Hate Box?
Yes, the inside of the club.
Yeah,
you know, you've got the woman with the mad punk hair, the fellow to the right of Marge who looks like some old SSX character used to go as Mac.
I really like this. I feel like a lot of the background character designs in The Simpsons can be just a bit, you know, a bit vanilla sometimes. So the fact that they've kind of really gonna stretch themselves out a little bit with the character design in this particular scene is quite nice. Everything about it's quite fun and vibrant. I really like all the ridiculous costumes. Big fan of the lady with the purple mohawk. And there's a guy who seems to have sort of a weird hat on his head that looks like a sort of fish tail or something. It's all just really fun, to be honest. And Marge looks very, very much the
I like her dancing. It's very cute. It's like she's not sure what she doesn't know what to do, but she's having fun.
Yeah, pretty relatable content right there. Kind of feel like Marge. I've been there before, so.
Howdy, this is just a reminder that if you're enjoying the content so far, loving our podcast, loving the episode, go to facebook.com and search for Uncle Mo's Family Feedbag, a British podcast, and give us a like there. We'll update you on all of our exclusive content and posts as well. Also, if you're in the mood for a bit more Simpsons and more Simpsons podcasts, go over and check out the 411 folks on Facebook and SoundCloud as well. They do lots of great impressions, great analysis of the episodes, and it's generally a good time. And now back with your regularly scheduled listening.
Homer's trying to find fun stuff to do. You know, he's milling around the Quickie Mart, looking through the magazines, but who has to kick him out? You know, this is not a library. So where does he go? The library to eat on snacks. This is not a Quickie Mart. I love the little quick cut to it. Perfect, Helen. Marge and Ruth get away from the nightclub and the hustle and bustle. They go out to the sticks. Ruth wants to show Marge something. A big revolver. Again, I love the framing of this. You just hear the chick of the revolver, and you've got the back of Ruth's head in the first third. You've got the gun in the last third, and then you've got Marge in the middle of the screen. Again, great framing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Marge is a bit concerned. She thinks she's out there to kill her. No, she wouldn't turn a gun on another human being, unlike her ex-husband. And she takes her anger out onto the antique cans here. Marge is a bit taken back when Ruth asks her to give it a go. But Marge does. Fair play to her. She's getting more confident. She's getting brazen with her new gal pal here. And she manages to make a shot. And the farmer's not happy with this.
Yeah, they crushed his antique can collection. I guess this foreshadows the fact that Marge becomes a bit of a dab hand at guns in a later episode. I believe the Cartridge Family in a much later season.
Yeah, and when she joined the police force as well.
Yeah, so, kind of foreshadows that.
Dan Castlenet here, voice Homer. He does little odd bits of other dialogue here, but I like this one-off character of this just old cranky farmer. McCann's, oh, look what you've done to him. After that, Marge decides to take him to her own little spot that Homer and her used to go to. And this is where we go back to the line of, oh, it's 9:30, we better turn ourselves in. Marge, bit of a change of attitude. Ruth says, let's call it a night. She goes, oh, it's only midnight, I've got this place. And she takes her to the Springfield sign, and Ruth is blown away. And I like how it's not just Ruth is influencing Marge for the most part. Marge can show Ruth beauty and, her own little hot spots, and she can take appreciation in that. I like it. It's very equal. It's like a proper friendship. It is a proper friendship.
Yeah, over the course of, 20 minutes of an episode, they really sort of flesh these two out in quite a nice way.
Oh, I didn't even mention, Homer's out, Marge is out. Who's looking after the kids, Sash?
Oh man, this is a whole other story in itself. I feel like they could have devoted an entire episode to this subplot of Lionel Hutz, lawyer come babysitter.
Yeah, Phil Hartman again, back at it. So nice, they've got him in twice here. He heard The Simpsons needed a babysitter. He was going to get $175, but Homer's very, adamant. We pay $8 for the night, and you can take 2 popsicles out the fridge. 3, 2. Okay, 2. And I get to keep this old bird cage. Done. That still got it.
Yep, drives a hard bargain. Well negotiated, or not, Lionel. But yeah, good little throwaway gag.
Yeah, I must say I've done that. I must say I have done that where I know things aren't really going my way, so I'm going to get the smallest, tiniest wee victory I can out of this and just still get it. Like, oh, you got my name wrong, Starbucks, but I'm taking as much free little sugar packets as I can. Still get it.
It's all about fighting them little battles.
As Ruth looks out among the beautiful scene from the top of the Springfield sign, Marge notices there's a lot of smoke coming from her chimney. And this is Lionel Hutz. I suppose he's just cutting his losses. He realises he's getting paid so little to see them, so he's burning, I guess, evidence or fraudulent claims against him and changing his name to Miguel Sanchez.
Yep, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much a typical Lionel Hutz kind of thing, isn't it, really? That's about what you'd expect from him, shady lawyer that he is.
Ruth and Marge leave. Homer actually just misses him, and he goes up. And, yes, there's a little flashback of Marge and Homer back at that little Springfield sign spot when they were young and just dating. And Homer, my God, if I wasn't like this when I was, 17? All violence, all lust, Oh, it's fun to smash this weather vane, Marge. Oh, you got pretty hair. Yeah, Homer actually spots a brand new weather station to beat up. But, it's just not the same with Marge. And Homer's actually feeling forlorn, but Wiggum springs up out of nowhere. He has an illegal moonshine distillery, playing again with a corrupt cop type.
Yeah, and it explodes too, just for extra ridiculousness.
I will say for the rest of this episode, this is what I want in a Simpsons episode. It has a good to decent start, and then it just changes gears and it becomes funnier and funnier and funnier. And that's what each episode should aim to do. Because when, pretty much from the start, when Marge leaves, it gets funnier. But then I feel when it reaches its apex is when Wiggum enters the fold. Because I just love Wiggum. I don't know about you, Sash.
Yeah, no, he's a great character for just ridiculous comic relief. When he enters the scene that things are going to get a bit more over the top than they already are.
Chief Wiggum ends up taking Homer a ride home. He's pitying him, he's all on his own out here. And he spots a car, and that car turns out to be Ruth and Marge on the way back. Again, Wiggum, just the incompetency, the stupid policeman trope. That taillight's a bit smaller than the other one. I better pull him over. Ruth believes they're coming for her stolen car. And Marge, can't believe this, stolen, but they speed off and I love hearing Marge's little scream. I think we hear it again when she speeds off from the cafeteria, but the little Wah!
Yeah.
She didn't expect this. She's along for the ride now, and it looks like we've got ourselves an old-fashioned car chase, Sash.
Yes, indeed. And what better way to amp up the tension than with a dramatic soundtrack?
Looks like we got ourselves an old-fashioned car chase.
Sunshine, lollipops, and
Rainbows, everything that's wonderful is what I feel when we're together. Brighter than a lucky penny when you're near the rain clouds disappear, dear, and I feel so.
Now, I'm not a big fan of repetition of jokes, but I just think this works better because with Ruth it was accidental, but with Chief Wiggum, this gets his pulse racing.
I thought this was a really good callback, to be honest with you. And there's just something really endearing about how cheerful Wiggum looks when he's singing along. And then obviously Homer joins in, and you get this little musical number in the middle of the episode, which is quite refreshing, to be honest, and just a good laugh, really.
Yeah, it actually cheers Homer's up because he realises that this, they say, a freak with a lot of blue hair is Marge. He's fallen, he's having to chase down his wife. He doesn't know what's going to happen to her now in this high-speed police chase. But, when Sunshine Lollipops comes on, a bit into it, you see a little wry smile, and then just as dumb singing along and the little finger waves. Oh, it's great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I love that scene. Just that little bit of camaraderie between two idiots. There's also that great visual gag just before that of the description of Marge in Homer's mind not being quite what you'd expect. Yeah, it's a freak with blue hair, and he sort of imagines this weird alien and then laughs, and then it's like, no, wait, that sounds like Marge.
They're now in a high-speed pursuit. Ruth confesses to Marge that because her ex-husband stiffed her on child support, to even things up, she stole his car. Marge doesn't really know what to do, so she just makes a non-committal noise. One of her favourite noises, the classic Marge grumble there. But, Ruth's fair. When this is done, she'll let Marge go. But Marge, she's too trusting of the Springfield police force, These are professional lawmen, but they can be easily outmaneuvered, outswerved by just flicking your back lights off. And this has Wiggum for a tizzy here, Oh, it disappeared! It's a ghost car!
Because, of course, that's the conclusion you would jump to in that scenario. But, it's Wiggum, so...
I love seeing this. I think Wiggum just matches any sort of character duo dynamic. I really like, they did a lot in season 3 and 4. Him and Quimby just at each other's heads for who sort of runs the town. I like this dynamic with him and Homer as just these two overweight, bumbling idiots just trying to make ends meet and just trying to find the culprit here, Oh, there's ghost hounds all over these highway. Hold me, only if you hold me. And then then you're just shivering in the car. It's perfect, Ash.
Yeah, it is. I absolutely agree with you. I'd love to see a spin-off of Wiggum having shenanigans with various other characters, because I think he's a great foil for whoever he's with.
They managed to evade, well, it wasn't that hard, but they managed to evade Wiggum and Homer, and they pull up outside of a cafe, and Ruth reminisces about the fun couple of nights they've had, despite all the madness. So she lets Marge go into the cafeteria, and Marge is about to make a phone call to home, when we get to see all the other Thelma and Louise archetype. In the film, Thelma and Louise, Susan Sarandon, Gina Davis, they are from the South, but it's very much played down their normal accents. But my God, do they ramp it up inside the cafeteria here with each of the highway sisters there, saying, if there's one thing decent folk do, it's stick together, and, I love the friendship me and you have. It's just the build-up of jokes of, this cross-country flight would be hell if we didn't stick together. Sticking together is what good people do. And then, I hate when the waffles stick together. Sticking together is what good waffles do. In a very literal sense. But in the meantime, they need to stock up Wiggum and Homer, they need to, get their energy up. So what do they have? Fried eggs on a fucking engine. And I used to think, obviously, a lot younger when watching it, that, that looks good. But then I realised, wait, there's no tinfoil. He's cooking it on an old, oily engine.
They taste. I was going to say they taste a bit oily. They taste less than stellar, to be honest.
Yeah, and the fact it's made even more. Somebody goes, if we can keep these down, like they're just going to come back up. We can keep these down. We'll be sitting pretty.
Already anticipating that it's not going to be the best meal they've ever had, to put it lightly.
Marge and Ruth's sort of rebellion reaches local news with Kent Brockman here, saying that they're now on a big fugitive chase. And again, back to Lisa being, playful and aspiring. She's really proud of her mum, casting off the shackles of the male oppressors finally. But, Bart's like, oh, shut up. I know, but I don't want to hear it, please.
And just before that, we get a great line from Ken Brockman. What is it? At the risk of editorialising, these women are guilty and must be dealt with in a harsh and brutal fashion. Which is, typical Kent Brockman, unbiased journalist. But yeah, Lisa's little quip there is great as well.
It's very Piers Morgan type that, at the risk of putting my own opinion across, here is my own opinion. And that these, oh, how dare these, free-thinking women actually sort of rebel against the system in a way. And he realises that, like, oh, fuck, I'll try and rationalise it. It cuts to the kids like, did he actually say that on live telly? And then he just has to, it's in Revelations, people! Like, drastically trying to rationalise it, so they cut to, oh, technical difficulties, this fella's just fucked it.
At the risk of editorializing, these women are guilty and must be dealt with in a harsh and brutal fashion. Otherwise, their behavior could incite other women, leading to anarchy of biblical proportions. It's in Revelations, people!
They nearly see the state line, do Ruth and Marge, They're gonna make it, but then in the background and on the horizon, you just see swamp after swamp of cop car. And I'll go back to the art direction here, Sash. This is where they really ramp up. This is where the episode, it's just brilliant. You just get to see them all merge into one. You've got the rising sun. It's got to be, 6 a.m. now, and it's just the dusk of it all.
Yeah, the pink sky. To be honest with you, watching the cars appear over the hill, I've kind of got in mind that this is probably unintentional on their part, but the scene in Lord of the Rings, the Battle of Helm's Deep, where Gandalf leads the backup army to the crest of the hill and looking down. That was kind of what immediately leapt to my mind. But I really like how this is framed and put together.
Marge actually makes the decision for Ruth. Ruth is actually going to give up, but this new attitude from Marge. Ruth, that's a lot of hooey. It's not over till it's over, and she steers the car straight to the Grand Chasm. But again, Marge goes back to a normal attitude of, oh, I'm sorry, I should have asked. I don't know what came over me.
Classic Marge. But yeah, it's nice to see Ruth having a little bit of influence on her and sort of feeding back in and showing that they both kind of gained quite significant character growth from this friendship of theirs.
They don't realise they're going into the Grand Chasm, so Homer has to scramble and grab a megaphone and try and calm down Marge, saying, I'm sorry for all these mistakes I've made. I'm sorry I used your wedding dress to buff the car, making gravy in the bathtub. Well, I'm sorry for the whole marriage at this point. And this gets Marge right in the feels, right in the heart, saying, oh, I am lucky to have him, He is moronic and that, but he does care. He's there every night when I come back in. I wouldn't say it's as sweet as the Duffless ending you and me reviewed, Sash, but what do you think of Homer's little trying to make up here, trying to calm her down?
Yeah, it's very much, Homer and Marge. You kind of get the sense of these two people who've been married for a long time and been through a lot together, and just sort of hearing the other person's voice sort of brings them back down to earth and reminds them of all the stuff that they've been through together and everything. And, I think there's a lot of instances of Homer being a bit of a jerk, but this is actually quite a sweet moment. Again, I'd agree it's not as sweet as the ending as the previous episode that we watched, but it's still pretty heartfelt. It's still pretty classic, Homer and Marge romantic cuteness.
Ruth and Marge realise that it's the Grand Chasm, so they slam the brakes on. But oh no, Wiggum and Homer they don't think to slam the brakes on, and they come careening off of the chasm there, which is pretty much shot by shot the end of Thelma and Louise. I believe that's been parodied God knows how many times, but they don't actually reach the end. They don't go to meet their maker, do Wiggum and Homer. No, it's in a landfill, Sash here.
Yeah. And, to think those environmentalists were complaining about that place.
And we reached the end of the episode where, now I don't know if you're familiar with sort of cop procedural shows, Sash, but this is a direct parody of Dragnet, which was a big American cop show back in the 60s. It's very sort of detective based and that, and everyone will know the sort of theme. I think it's more popularized through The Simpsons. That da 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 da. They've used it in a couple of episodes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I didn't. I mean, I assumed it was a reference to something, but the particularities of it were lost on me. So it's pretty neat to sort of put that back in its context.
And the narrator of Dragnet is the fella they get in at the end that says, Ruth Powers had to pay this municipal court damage. That's actually got him at like age 80 to come in and record those lines. So sticking with the parody, I can definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, commitment to the pastiche.
The story you are about to see is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Ruth Powers was tried in Springfield Superior Court. The judge dismissed her ex-husband's auto theft charges and forced him to pay all back child support. Mr. Powers blamed the outcome on his lawyer, one Lionel Hutz. Lionel Hutz, a.k.a. Miguel Sanchez, a.k.a. Dr. Nguyen Van Thok, was paid $8 for his 32 hours of babysitting. He was glad to get it. Marge Simpson was charged with a violation of Penal Code Section 618A, wanton destruction of precious antique cans. She was ordered to pay 50 cents to replace the cans and $2,000 in punitive damages and mental anguish. Homer Simpson was remanded to the custody of the United States Army Neurochemical Research Center at Fort Meade, Maryland, for extensive testing.
Woohoo!
And with that, we end the episode. So, Sash, after all of that, after all these high pursuits and sisterhood of the leather jacket, not quite travelling pants, because Ruth Powers is a sassy girl here. What do you think of this episode on the whole now? How do you rate it?
I super enjoyed this one. It was good to see a character who we don't see very often, someone outside of the Simpsons family bubble, being brought in to freshen things up a little bit. Good bit of character development for Marge, some good moments for all the characters. Bit of Lionel Hutz, which is always fun. Bit of Wiggum, which is always fun. And yeah, just a really tightly scripted episode with a lot of references, a lot of things that even if you haven't seen the originals are still funny in their own right. Excellent use of sunshine and lollipops. Lots of laugh out loud moments and some good quotes. So yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Out of 5 or whatever, I guess your individual ranking system, how would you rank this episode?
Well, I guess since it features Ruth Powers, I'd have to give it a power level of over 9,000. It's a pretty solid episode. Is that...
All right, I'll just say this. We're going to dip behind the curtain a bit here, folks. Not only is Sash a massive fan of puns, which, I'm not going to lie, it can be tiresome if you actually see her in person, but she's also a massive Dragon Ball Z fan, so she's went and vindicated herself here.
The Simpsons aren't the only people who can reference lots of other shows.
For myself, I forgot how good this was. Not even just from the parody aspect of Thelma and Louise, but seeing Marge with this new character dynamic, seeing her change, even if it is just for an episode, seeing her change and grow more confident. And then the buffoonery with Wiggum and Homer, as well as the tiny plot of Miguel Sanchez here, Lionel Hutz. I've got to go with, let me think. Solid 4 out of 5. But what of? Let's say 4 out of 5 sunshine and lollipops.
I think that's a fair rating.
If you can, like Uncle Mo's Family Feedbag podcast on Facebook. Also on SoundCloud, the same, Uncle Mo's Family Feedbag podcast here. Sash, please plug away and promote your business. Do what you want to do, hun.
I guess you can find me at... find me on most of my... sorry, let me start that again. You can find me on Twitter at HeySash, that's HeyYySash, That's where I hang out most of the time, post most of my artwork, most of my RPG business such and things like that. So yeah, check me out.
Now you just, I believe you worked on a comic book with a mutual friend of yours or whatsoever. So please tell us about that and how can people support that?
Oh yeah, so I got a illustrated comic recently. It's called Pink Beat. It's just a little romance comic, little way for me to sort of test my boundaries and create a short story and work in a medium I've wanted to work in for a while. A friend of mine wrote the script, and yeah, that is also linked on my Twitter. So check it out there. It's on the pinned post, so it's super easy to find.
Now is the eagerly anticipated part of the show where we get our next episode through random episode generation. So let's have a pull of that lever and see what happens. Okay, and we've got Season 3's Rancho Relaxo coming up next, folks. Okay, and we will see you again shortly, folks. Take care now.
Come to Uncle Moe's for family fun. It's good, 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 good.
Sounds good.